Welcome to the Author's Chaos podcast. I am SF Rogers, and I'm so glad you're here. Daniel and I tried to record an episode on two different recording softwares on Monday with Megan Mossgrove, and both of them failed. So we ended up interviewing her on TikTok Live. Hope you guys could catch that. If you didn't, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get the video edited. It's a process. But since you have stuck with us this long, I decided I'm going to read to you the first chapter of my debut novel, Execration of Autumn. Now, disclaimer, I am not a narrator in any way, shape, or form. So if you giggle at me, fine. If you want to listen to this 1,003 times because you love the sound of my voice, that's fine too. I appreciate it. It's cool. So without further ado, here's the first chapter of Execration of Autumn. Chapter 1. The adventure begins. As I listened to the water cascade over the ledge, I heard a voice that was all too familiar. "Well, are you coming?" he asked with a hand outstretched. This is the same question that got me started on this adventure, an adventure I had never wanted to go on. At 39, I had no desire to leave the comforts of my home, yet here I am. I thought prophecies only came to young people, wide-eyed and untainted by the world. No, not this time. This time it fell on me. How did I get here, you ask? Well, I should probably start with my name. I'm Cora. My husband Jim and I have walked through what I call our happily ever after for the last 19 years. We were never able to have children, so it's been just us and the dogs. Jim was a no-frills, no-nonsense kind of man, the opposite of the creative I am. We lived a perfectly normal life, going to beaches around the country once every few years. 6 years into our marriage, we decided neighbors weren't for us, so we moved to a mountain cottage. We have 2 acres there and a large fenced-in backyard to keep our dogs close to home. Our only neighbors were bears, mountain lions, squirrels, and other wildlife. Like any other day, I walked out to my swing to sit in the cool autumn air while our 2 dogs, Gage and Hawkins, ran. Jim was inside taking his usual Sunday nap, and the weather was a perfect 72 degrees. I looked around my yard, remembering the summers of hammocks, tents, and pool parties with my nephews. Our house was their summer camp until they became too cool to spend a summer with Jim and I. Life was quiet for us for the first time in several years. Jim was no longer coaching baseball for the local high school, and I had left teaching a few years ago to focus more on my art. I had no desire for anything different. That is until a wolf came up to our back fence. It strolled out of the tree line right up to the chain link. Hawkins and Gage began their normal warning barks and returned to the deck. Typical. We have 2 big dogs because we thought they would protect us, but these 2 fear their own shadows, I thought to myself. Opening the back door, I walked into the kitchen and hollered, "Jim, there's a wolf by the back fence. Are your chickens up?" "I'm moving. I need to check." I heard my love walk to the gun cabinet and grab his shotgun. "Oh, don't hurt it. They never bother us." "I don't plan on hurting it, Cor. I just want to protect myself," he said, and firmly placed a kiss on my forehead. "I'll be right back." His blue eyes were groggy from being woken up from his nap, but the smile that spread across his face was contagious. His 6'6" frame filled the back door as he walked out. At 43, he was still the big cowboy I met all those years ago. He continued with bodybuilding, going to the gym 6 times a week while I used my membership to walk on a treadmill or sit in the massage chairs. Age had treated him well. His long, dirty blonde hair had lost little of its luster, and our age was starting to show at the corners of his bright eyes. "Darling, you might want to come out here," came his drawl through the back door. As I stepped out, where the wolf had been standing now was a lithe man. Long brown hair fell to his waist and moved with the wind. His medium frame and the way he held himself screamed danger. "Did you see him earlier?" "Well, Jim, if I had seen a man, I would have told you." Exasperated, I stepped out onto the porch with him. Gage and Hawkins rushed through the open door and headed straight to the back fence where the stranger stood with his hand on top of the gate. We'd never been out through that back gate. In all the years we'd been here, we never went that way because of the wildlife we always saw. Gage, Hawkins, get back here. Those dogs fear everything, but trotted right up to the stranger and sat looking at him, tails wagging. Those traitors. Jim, your guard dogs are doing such a fine job. I smiled, looking up at him. Cora, they do their job most days. Where do you think you're going? I will grab the dogs and ask if this gentleman needs help. There are no houses close, so he must be lost. Well, wait for me, Jim sighed as he slung the gun over his shoulder. We walked across the yard, me determined to get my babies, and Jim following behind, waiting to protect us at the first sign of malicious intent from the stranger. Hello there. Can we help you? Jim's voice came over my shoulder to the stranger. I smiled warmly as I petted both dogs on the head. You have gotten old. The stranger smiled at Jim and showed his perfect white teeth. His clothing was older, with a leather vest hanging over a white cotton undershirt and tight cotton blue pants. Years will do that to you, friend. Mind reminding me of your name? Jim asked, shifting the gun on his shoulder. Oh, your eyes no longer show you the truth. The stranger crossed his arms. My, how far you've fallen, friend. He hissed the last word. Excuse me. I lifted my hand. I'm certain I don't know you. My name is Cora Noel. Yes, we all know you. Your husband here broke tradition when he fell for you. He cut me off. I was beginning to not like this stranger. You will not speak to her that way. Jim's voice had changed. I turned around to see the love of my life, but he looked different. Something about his face was different. His blue eyes were electrified, and his age seemed to have melted away. His hair returned to the sandy blonde I remembered from when I met him. I knew you were in there, brother. Brother? Jim, what is he talking about? Why do you... Jim put his large hands on my shoulders before I could get my questions out. Darling, I need you to go back to the house. Take the dogs. I'll take care of it. His voice was back to his normal drawl. Yes, go back to the house. No need to concern yourself with Fay business, came the stranger's voice. Oh, wait. She has everything to do with what I have to tell you. Fay business? What is that? I asked breathlessly. Jim, why do you look different? Questions just wouldn't stop flowing out of my mouth. Cora, go to the house now. Jim's voice was so loud I nearly jumped out of my skin. Never in all our years together had he yelled at me. I quickly grabbed Gage by the collar and knew that Hawkins would follow. As I made my way back up the back steps, I quickly glanced over my shoulder to the two men standing at the back fence. They spoke quickly and quietly to each other, but their body language spoke of something dangerous. When we met, Jim told me he had no family left. Both sets of grandparents were gone when he was young, and his parents passed away in his teens. Brother, the stranger had called him. Jim had never mentioned siblings. I have 6 brothers, and know how close I am to them. Why wouldn't he mention he had a brother? My heart was pounding as I walked to my chair. What the hell do they mean when they say Fay business? I grabbed a bottle of water on my way through the kitchen and took a couple of sips. Why is my husband suddenly fine with yelling at me? I was doing what he said, I thought as Hawkins nuzzled me into the chair. Oh, leave me alone. I'm sitting, you silly dog, I said as I sat back in my recliner. So many questions kept flying through my mind, but the one that screamed the loudest was, has he lied to me all this time? And that is chapter 1 of Execration of Autumn. If you enjoyed that and want to know more about Cora and her adventure into the Autumn Court, you can find Execration of Autumn on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. It is available for purchase. You can also find me at JomoCon on July 20th at the Joplin High School. If you are close to the Joplin, Missouri area, I would love to see you. I will have a couple of hardcovers and several paperbacks for sale, as well as some other things on my table. I would be happy to speak to you and say hello, and I'm sure you would love to meet Daniel as well. He's way better at all the things than I am because he's amazing. Don't tell him I said that. He won't actually listen to this. Thank you guys for being here. This has been the Author's Chaos. I hope you have an amazing day.